cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck, and it is time. It's the game against that team up north this week. We've set aside this podcast just for them, just to preview them. We're not going to have any other teams to talk about because they're the only thing that matters in the world, and it's officially that time to destroy the team up north for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Coming in, both teams 11-0, 2 versus 3. I'm sure there'll be 2 versus 3 in the CFP rankings too once they come out tomorrow night. Or sorry, 2 nights from now. It's Sunday night that we're recording this. But 2 evenly matched teams statistically. Coming into this Ohio Stadium though for the first time since 2018. Time for the Buckeyes to right the ship after last year's disaster in Ann Arbor. Casey Dyer, the Dyer Wolf. How are you feeling? How your Jimmy's feeling getting into this week?
We struggled against Maryland, but they sure as hell struggled against Illinois. They were a lot closer to losing than we were. I was biting my nails a little bit in the second half there when we were.
They're already young.
Yeah, when we were up 3 and they had the ball with 6 minutes left or something like that, I was pretty nervous. But they didn't look good either. Corum goes out. If he plays, he's obviously not going to be 100%. And when he wasn't in the second half, they looked like trash. Illinois pissed that game away. They played not to lose instead of to win. So coming in, I think we found something with Hayden. Henderson goes out. He was absolutely putrid. 11 carries, 19 yards. The question for the past 4 or 5 weeks has been this run game, whether it's play calling, offensive line. It can't be the running backs. Well, maybe it was Henderson because Mayan absolutely freaking dominated against Indiana until he got hurt. And it, for whatever reason, you touched on in the previous podcast that I don't understand why, but he has refused to put Hayden in, even though we got hobbled running backs. I don't know if he doesn't trust him as a freshman, as a blocking running back, or whatever, but I will not be upset whatsoever if he's the starting guy come Saturday. Mine, I assume, is going to play. I don't think Henderson should. I assume mine's going to play a limited role.
I don't see that at all.
I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit here, but we can't read into what Day says much at all about injuries. But this is exactly the style of running back we need. I feel like every time we run outside, try to bounce it, it just doesn't freaking work. We run north and south, vertical running. And Hayden said in his interview after the game that's the type of running back he's been his whole career in high school. So that's the style of running to beat Michigan, and I think we're going to get the job done. I think it's going to be tight. I sent you a text with a stat that we are like 89-0 since 2014. If we score over 30 points, I think we hit that mark. I think it's going to be like a 38-27 type of game. It's close the whole time. Like maybe we get a backdoor cover, like it's 30-27. We got the ball, and then we just pound the rock to solidify the win and get a touchdown at the end.
You're obliterating the over there. So the spread's 8.5, over under 6 or 57.5, I believe, right now.
So I have 65.
That point spread scares me for betting purposes. With Corum hobbled though in their game, it gives me a lot more confidence than if he was not. I actually would probably feel like we were going to lose, to be honest, if Corum was playing, because the style that we have seen. Now, they can take advantage of maybe our biggest weakness, which is our corners. Not our secondary, our corners. Our pass defense in the secondary is not great. Maryland exposed it. Penn State exposed it, and they're really the only teams that have a passing game to even talk about who we've played this year. Arkansas State, I guess, to a lower extent. But they are a bad passing team right now. McCarthy, in their 3 biggest games against good defenses, Iowa, Penn State, and then Illinois last week, The most yards he's thrown for is 208. He's only thrown for 1 touchdown combined in those 3 games. He is not a good quarterback throwing the ball right now. He's not even that good of a runner. And guess how many yards he has running on the year, Casey? I probably just gave it away a little bit, but go ahead.
I don't know. They played 11 games. He's supposed to be a dual threat, so you'd think he would average 40 yards a game, so maybe 500.
He's at right around 200, I think, right now. Like 207, something like that. Hold on.
So he's getting 20 yards a game.
Yeah, he's not that big of a threat. 213 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. He's only been sacked 8 times too, so it's not like he's all that's taken away on sack yards. And I watched him play. He's a good athlete. He's a good athlete, but he's not Caleb Williams. He's not DTR. He's not Hendon Hooker even. Like he's not the guy that's going to go out there and beat you single-handedly running the football. And
Curious now that I know the low number, what does Stroud ran for? It's got to be over 100.
I doubt it. I have no idea though.
He had like 80 in the.
Here, you talk and I'll look it up.
Yeah, he had like 80 in the Northwestern game, so I'm guessing it's like 110. But because he hasn't been sacked much either. But that is one thing I was going to touch on for sure. Is you look at all the main stats, right? Rush, defense. We're statistically, I didn't have time to look it up after last week, but we've been right around top 10 all year.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan is like top 2.
Yeah.
They're like number 1 or number 2. I don't know after last week because Illinois actually ran the ball pretty well against them.
But Illinois was the one they were playing against. They were going against. I think they had more yards.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then you go pass defense. Statistically, we've actually ranked pretty well all year. I'm sure that went way down after last week. But still, Michigan's probably like top 5, top 10 or something like that, I'm guessing. And we're like 15th. So no big discrepancy there. So then you go on the offensive side of the ball, running the ball. They're either first or second, I think. And we're like maybe 15th or 20th, somewhere in that ballpark. Then you go passing the ball, we're top 10, top 15, somewhere like that. They're like 100th in passing offense. Oh, yeah. So we're all like real bunched together. Even points given up and points scored, we're both like, boom, like right there. Differential, we're like number 1 and number 2 in the country, I think. But the huge difference is passing offense for them. So we're like on paper, we are a perfect matchup, except they can't pass the freaking ball and we can.
Yeah, so Stroud has 77 yards on the year, by the way. Basically, he's got a negative. He had negative 6 yards last week. He's not that good of a runner.
Well, I know he's not a good runner, but my point was going to be McCarthy is supposed to be this big dual threat guy, and Stroud is about the opposite of that. And Stroud has 80 yards compared to 210.
Yeah, and he's not passing the ball to make it up. But the differences are crazy. Like, we score 6 more points a game, but they give up 5 points less per game. We average 40 more yards on offense per game, but they give up 42 yards less per game on defense. So, like, the differences, our differentials in yardage and points is pretty much the same. Now, they've played a slightly easier schedule than us, not a lot easier, but especially with Illinois getting in there. But they're not as good as Notre Dame is, as it's been proven throughout the year, since Illinois still hasn't beat anybody with a pulse all season long, besides Iowa, I guess.
Our non-conference completely destroys their non-conference, but their Big Ten West opponents destroy ours. So
I don't know about destroy. Nebraska, we both played Iowa, and Nebraska versus
Wisconsin, and then Northwestern and Illinois.
Yeah, that's the big difference there.
And then so they got the edge on the Big Ten West. We have the edge on the non-conference, but our edge on non-conference is bigger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But man, just Notre Dame, though. The big battle is going to be in the trenches, though, like it was last year. Last year, obviously, they beat us 42-27 and ran it down our throats to the tune of, I think, 4 straight touchdowns in the second half, maybe 5 straight touchdowns. It was bad either way.
I've blacked it out. It didn't.
Yeah, it was bad. They manhandled us in the trenches. I think we've in the defensive side of the ball, we've improved substantially, even if the stats don't necessarily bear it out. But we're pretty stout in the middle. Now we can be run on a bit, but I think that's just a function of the modern game where we're also playing 5 DBs out there at all times. So we're not really built. I expect to see a lot more 3 linebacker formations. I expect to see Cody Simon in there a whole lot more, like we've seen against other teams when they've run 2 tight end sets. He's been in a lot, and he was against Maryland as well. But it's going to be just who's going to bring it. Who's going to bring it? Who's going to be a man down there? Is Mike Hall going to like suddenly regain his form from earlier this year, or is Jerron Cage like I thought he was our worst player on the field against Michigan last year. He was pushed around constantly. They were just running right at him. He's got to remember that. Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers had a horrible game against Michigan last year. Missed tackles, missed assignments left and right. They shift a lot pre-snap, and that can be very confusing. And we're still in year 1 of this defense, so there could be blown assignments just due to alignment being improper for the game. There's a lot of things that concern me, but Corum being out, he is their offense. He's the Heisman candidate. I don't know if he's out or not. It looked bad, though, the knee injury he suffered that kept him out of the second half, and there's no way. They tried to play him one play in the second half, and he clearly couldn't cut off of it and just went down, which is stupid by them, like really stupid by them.
Yep. I think, a guy to keep your eye on is Sawyer, man. He's been coming alive the last 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And people are going to be doubling JT. He might be free a few times. Eichenberg is a freaking man. He has the most tackles for Ohio State since like 14 or 15 with potentially 4 games left. He's at like 105. He's got 2 freaking broken somethings.
Broken hands. Both his hands broken, allegedly.
Yeah, Ransom broke his thumb on the opening play of the game, apparently, too.
Yeah, it's great. So,
yeah, I have a lot of faith in our defense, even though last week the passing, our passing defense, nothing to write home about, but this is not a good passing team. So I think it almost feeds right into our strength on defense. It's strength against strength. And then, I don't know. We've touched on it before, just me and you texting, actually. The first quarter is huge. If we get ahead, they are absolutely fucked. If we are up 14-0 somehow in the start of the second quarter and they have to start throwing the ball a little more, they are screwed. And first down for them is huge too. If they can gain 4 or 5 yards on first down, it could be ugly. But if we're stopping them for 1 or 2 yards and it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, they got to think, are we going to run it again or are we going to throw? And if it's 2nd and 5, they're running it every freaking time. If it's 2nd and 9 and 8, they're running it half the time, maybe not even half the time.
Yeah, you stole what I was going to say there. Yeah, first down and first half is the first quarter. Is the key to this game because we jump out early on him, force McCarthy to pass. He showed in that Illinois game he's not up to the task to like win you the game with his arm. He's needing, and him and his receivers. His receivers are not good. They are not good receivers. Ronnie Bell's an 11th year senior there. He's by far their best receiver, and that's not saying much because he's a little slot guy who isn't particularly fast after the catch or that dangerous. I think he's got 48 catches for like 500 yards. That leads their team by a lot, and nobody else is as. I think their tight ends are okay. They all was a good tight end, but he's out for the year. Their pass isn't that good. It's been especially down the field. They don't even try to throw it down the field most of the time. But could be the problem that I hope we aren't showing what we did against Maryland, where we're just giving him the short stuff. Because he can hit those. He's accurate enough on the short stuff to hit those if we're leaving them wide open all day. So I want to see some press. We should have everybody near the line of scrimmage, though, to stop the run and to force them to throw the ball deep. And if they start beating us that way, then adjust. But I don't think we need to be giving them any sort of cushion or any respect to their passing game to start out.
No, that is one thing that could catch us off guard if everybody in the world knows they're going to run the goddamn ball, and then all of a sudden they start trying to throw it all over the place. That could catch us off guard in the first quarter, which this whole season, the first quarter seems to be like Knowles is like, let's see what they're going to do, and they might get a freaking score on us, and then he adjusts, which I'm hoping doesn't happen.
Hey,
but
real quick. They've scored 8 times on their opening possession, 8 touchdowns, which leads the country. Michigan has. So there's a very good chance they score right off the bat.
I did not know that. That is surprising. Okay. Because
They looked like they were going to blow it out that first drive. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. I only say it's surprising because it seems like the last 5 or 6 weeks they've either been tied or down or barely winning at halftime. So they must score the opening drive and then just shit their pants until halftime.
Shut it down. They don't change what they're doing. Other teams adjust, and then they get shut down, and they adjust at halftime.
You mentioned receivers on their side. I want to touch on, you had mentioned kind of throwing a little shade at Fleming in the last podcast, deservedly so. He's been having a case of the dropsies. I wouldn't be upset if I saw Xavier Johnson in there a little more. I mean, he has been clutch all freaking year long with everything they've asked him to do. I mean, Fleming's that 5-star guy, but why not give somebody else a chance? I mean, we're so deep at receiver. If he keeps dropping balls and big opportunities, then let somebody else try.
Yeah, but Jaden Ballard's done good, I think, every time he's been in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Xavier Johnson's who you want in the game. 5th-year senior, whatever he is. Walk on, 5-star football player, 3-star athlete, 5-star football player, 3-star athlete for his position. He's a good athlete for sure. He's recovered both Ransom's blocked punts. He's recovered. He's caught the huge touchdown against Notre Dame.
He had a 79-yard rushing touchdown.
71, but yeah.
Yeah. Against Indiana.
Yeah, he just does what he does. He's not the fastest guy for a receiver, but who cares? And he just plays tough, and I trust him out there. It's just weird with Day's trust issues with Hayden and the backup receiver. He seems to only want to play starters, period, for like almost the entire game, for over like 5 minutes. I don't really understand it with that. Like, why do you recruit all this depth if you're not going to use it? We're going to have to use it, though. Like I said, he made the best thing that may have came out of the Henderson injury, which is not a great thing. Obviously, I like Trey as a person, but as a player, it's been very frustrating to watch him this year. Hayden's going to have to play. He's going to have to play. He's going to be forced to play Hayden. I don't believe Mayan's healthy enough to play. I really don't.
He better freaking play. If I see Henderson out there opening drive, I might just go back on. I'm going to be at the stadium. I might just leave. But
be in the back of the stadium inside about guarantee he's going to be out there the first play unless he just can't go.
Henderson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm surprised you're saying that because I would have thought for sure either Hayden or Mayan is getting the start. I mean, he couldn't do a goddamn thing. Yeah. But I'll just real quick. I don't really like him that much, and I know you don't particularly either. But that Jeff Snook I follow, and he made an interesting comparison I hadn't thought about. But he said the emergence of Hayden late is reminding him of Olave. His freshman year, he had a big game like the game before Michigan. Apparently, I don't even remember that. And then Michigan was like his real coming out party.
He's grasping at straw. Hayden's had a few good games. This wasn't his first good game. He's got
second 100 yards.
Yeah, and he had 100 yards against Michigan State too, I believe, or maybe not 100, but he had a lot. He had a good game against Michigan State in the second half. This is what's weird about what Dave was saying. Dave said after the game that it was a good confidence builder for Hayden and all that. I'm like, he had 80, he had 73 carries. He's 100 carries exactly now. The carries are almost even. 117, 107, 100 now for the 3 running backs.
Holy shit! I would not have thought that.
Just from them being injured, missing games, it's going to happen. It's 73 carries. That's not a little amount of carries. That's like 3 games worth of carries for a bell cow. And he had 2 games before that where he basically was the bell cow in the second half. So I don't understand why he thinks he thinks Hayden doesn't have confidence in himself when he's ran well every time you've asked him to. He's ran the ball well this year. I don't understand that.
I think it's so much about, like, we've touched on this so many times where he tries to overthink the opposing coach, where He wants to run the perfect play. It's like, no, you have more talent. You don't need to run the perfect play. So he's thinking, I think it comes down to pass pro. I really do. Because Henderson kept coming. He came in on third down plays when we're going to pass the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Hayden was I think he came in twice for pass.
It was one play.
It was only once.
Yeah.
So if he continues to do that, then he thinks he's showing his hand a little bit, knowing that if Hayden's in, we're going to run. I think it has more to do with pass protection, and he's never fumbled the freaking ball, but I'm wondering if that has something to do with it too, because he keeps saying the number one thing for a running back is to hold on to the football, which I don't know if that's exactly, if I completely agree.
I think care how good you are holding on the ball if you can't gain yards.
I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with that. But, like, I'd rather you get 6 yards of carry and have like 4 fumbles on the year than run for 2 yards carry and 0 fumbles.
Yeah, that's 100% with you there. Yeah, one thing that could this come down to, though, is Day has made some odd choices in 2-point conversions this year. Late game clock management, there's been weird choices. Late game decision making on when and when not to take points. Fourth down aggressiveness. I expect a lot of aggressiveness from both teams this weekend, because both teams are going to be playing. They're going to be playing to win, not to lose. I mean, last year, that's kind of what got Michigan, I thought, going, was they played not to lose clearly early in the game, and they ran flea flicker. I mean, I expect to see some trick plays from us, though. We haven't ran a lot this year. I think we'll see a few. But that's not what's going to win the game. The game's going to be won in the trenches, and whichever team runs the ball, we can win without running the ball well. And I think they can be had pass-wise real quick. You know, they have a really good pass defense, number 1 in the country. It's because they played a bunch of really crappy pass offenses. Penn State and Maryland had success passing the ball against them. Penn State didn't really, but that's Sean Clifford on the road in a big game, which is what he does, is shit the bed in those situations. So I'm not going to give them too much credit for that one, even though they threw all over us in Happy Valley. But I watched the Iowa game, almost the whole game. They were open. Now, Petrus sucks, and so does their line, but there were guys getting open down the field. I think we can get open. I think we can pass the ball on them without too much of a problem. They don't have an elite pass rush at all, and their leading sacker missed the last game. Now, I think they were being cautious a little bit. They held a couple guys out against Illinois, but he was out, and he's the only one that has more than 2.5 sacks on the year, Morris. So, you know, we have a first-round pick at left tackle and another probably a third-round pick at right tackle. It's also why I don't understand the having to keep Travion in for passing situations. Trust your offensive line.
Yeah. I think the pass defense stats can be very misleading. I mean, if you look at that, we are an elite pass defense team. And if you're a fan and you watch every game, that is by far our biggest weakness. I mean, going into this last game, again, I didn't have time to look up the stats, but we were like top 15 in the country on pass defense.
We still are. We're like 12.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're number 1, but we were playing a lot of the same teams. So really the only difference is we played – who did they play? We didn't – Nebraska. They're not a great passing team. And
better than Wisconsin. They're better than Wisconsin passing the ball.
Yeah, yeah. But Illinois, I mean, they're not a pass-heavy team. So you're exactly right there. They're not playing any elite passing teams except Penn State, which they had them at home, and we had Penn State away. That's probably the biggest discrepancy of any team in the whole freaking country, I think. Penn State away versus home.
Yeah. Well, the Penn State's been rolling people away right now, too, but we digress a bit because it's fuck Michigan week. We don't need to talk about other teams. Yeah. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about how you see this game going.
Oh, boy.
Over under 8.5. Over under 57.5. Spread's 8.5 right now. I'm going to get mine first. I'm tempted. I'm going to take the points with Michigan as a hedge against my my fandom here. But I do think we win this game. I think we make enough plays. I think our defense is clutch. Actually, they've been really clutch. Fourth quarter, they didn't play great against Maryland, but they made clutch plays at the end of the game. When they got needed stops, they got them. And obviously Harrison makes the plays at the end of the game to seal it. But I think Knowles, Michigan's biggest advantage had been in the second half until Illinois. Illinois outplayed them in the second half for most of that second half. They actually scored points. And I think Knowles has also been great at making halftime adjustments. So it is funny. I think the last 10 minutes of the game, Maryland had negative 12 yards, and they didn't score. It was basically a 2-minute. It was like a 5-minute stretch in the beginning of the fourth quarter that we got ran over for like a hot minute there by their offense. But other than that, we played really well in the second half. I think it'll be very close at halftime though, because I think Dale gets stubborn in the first half and have me pulling my hair out. But I'll take us semi-low scoring, but you said the 30-point. I'll go 31-24. So Michigan covers, and we're under, but Ohio State wins.
So I'm going to go completely opposite of you, apparently. I think, that first quarter is huge. I think we do go out to a big lead, and we never look back. But they will score some points on us. I know they will. That's inevitable. They're going to score at least. I would be shocked if they didn't score 21 on us. But I do see us establishing Hayden, running north and south. We got pretty good weather. The forecast is showing it's like 40 to low 40s, like 20% chance of rain. There's a little bit of wind, 10 to 15 miles an hour, but nothing scary at all. We don't have the flu. I don't want to make that excuse, but that was thrown around a little bit last year. But I do see us scoring on them a little bit. We're 89-0, scoring 30 plus since the Natty year. So I do see us scoring about. I'm going to say 38-27. That hits the over and the cover.
Right now, I got Saturday here now with a chance of scattered showers coming through. Not that that'll make a huge difference, but
what's the chance?
We want 40%. We want the weather as nice as possible. Any bad weather is definitely an advantage to them in their lackluster passing game.
Yep.
But hey, maybe we got to beat them, whatever the conditions are. There's no excuses this year, none whatsoever. It's in the shoe. They're banged up, just like we're banged up, except for it's their best player that's out. It's time for us to get exact revenge from last year. Fuck that team up north. Never mind. Change my score. 77-0. Ohio State. You heard it here first. All right, that'll do it for this week. We'll probably be not doing this podcast next week if we lose, because I'll be dead. I'll throw myself off a bridge into the old Tangy River, and you'll never hear from me again. Maybe not. But we'll be doing some more podcasts this week. But check out our Michigan Hate podcast. If you enjoyed this, you're really going to enjoy that. Follow us on Twitter, I guess, and comment, subscribe. Tell us exactly how many points we're going to beat that Michigan ass by. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.